A late-night traffic stop takes a shocking turn when two officers pull over a young man driving through their city. What they don't realize: he's the mayor's son. From the moment they see him, assumptions are made, and their words reveal a deep prejudice that's hard to ignore. But this isn't just another story of injustice. What happens next sets off a chain of events that leaves the entire city shaken to its core. The young man's quiet resilience and his father's position ignite a movement no one saw coming. As the truth unfolds, alliances will be tested, reputations will crumble, and a powerful message will echo through the streets. Can justice prevail when prejudice runs deep? Or will this moment of pain become a catalyst for lasting change? Stay tuned, because this story is about more than one family. It's about an entire city coming to terms with its identity. The night started like any other for the mayor's son, Marcus. Driving home after visiting a friend, he kept to himself, music playing softly in the background. But as flashing red and blue lights filled his rearview mirror, his stomach tightened. He knew the drill: hands on the wheel, calm voice, no sudden movements. Still, the officer's tone immediately cut through the night like a knife. Their questions weren't about his license or registration. Instead, they were laced with insults, stereotypes, and unwarranted suspicion. What made matters worse was their refusal to listen when Marcus tried to explain who he was. "Oh, the mayor's son." One officer scoffed, smirking as if it were a joke. It wasn't until one of them reached for their radio, preparing to escalate things further, that Marcus spoke the words that changed everything. But even then, the tension only grew, and the story was far from over. Marcus's words hung in the air like a challenge, his calm but firm tone catching the officers off guard. "You might want to call your supervisor," he said, meeting their eyes without flinching. The officers exchanged glances, their confidence faltering for just a moment. But instead of backing down, they doubled down, acting as if his words were a bluff. One of them leaned closer, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "And why's that? You think you're special." What they didn't know was that Marcus had already texted his father. The mayor wasn't just a leader, he was a man known for fighting injustice in the community. Meanwhile, word of the incident began spreading on social media. A nearby bystander had recorded the interaction and uploaded it, sparking outrage online. As the video went viral, different sides of the city began reacting. Some demanded accountability, while others defended the officers. The divide was growing, and the truth was about to unravel in ways no one expected. As the officers continued their aggressive questioning, Marcus stayed composed, but the weight of the situation pressed down on him. The longer the exchange dragged on, the more the crowd around them began to grow. A few people whispered in disbelief, while others quietly recorded, sensing something wasn't right. Meanwhile, Marcus's father, Mayor Bennett, had received the message. He was no stranger to injustice, but this was personal. Without hesitation, he left his meeting and called the police chief directly, demanding answers. Back at the scene, tensions were nearing a breaking point. One of the officers, clearly frustrated, began reaching for his handcuffs, ignoring Marcus's attempts to de-escalate. Just then, a familiar car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the chaos. Stepping out was Mayor Bennett himself, his face a mixture of anger and determination. The crowd fell silent as all eyes turned to him. No one knew what would happen next, but everyone could feel that something big was coming. The mayor's arrival should have been the turning point, a moment of authority that could diffuse the tension. But as he approached Marcus, something unexpected happened. One of the officers, the one who had been the most confrontational, suddenly pulled away from the scene, his radio crackling with an urgent message. The officer's expression shifted from smug to anxious as he spoke in a hushed tone into the device, his words unintelligible to the onlookers, but clearly filled with alarm. It was clear that something was happening behind the scenes, something bigger than just a traffic stop. Before anyone could process what was happening, the officer abruptly left, signaling for the other cop to follow. Marcus stood frozen, confusion and disbelief written across his face. His father, usually so steady in moments of crisis, looked momentarily unsettled. Just as they began to ask questions, another squad car pulled up, this one with officers in plain clothes. The crowd murmured, sensing that the story was far from over, and this new development only made the stakes higher. What had they missed? Why was this escalating so quickly? Every second felt like a countdown to a final revelation. As the plainclothes officers stepped out of their car, all eyes turned to them. The tension in the air was so thick, it felt as if the entire city was holding its breath. One of the officers, a woman with a stern look on her face, walked straight up to Mayor Bennett and handed him a sealed envelope. Without saying a word, she turned and walked away, leaving the mayor stunned. He opened it immediately, his eyes scanning the contents. A strange silence fell over the crowd. What he read in the envelope wasn't just news, it was a bombshell. It revealed that the two officers who had stopped Marcus weren't just acting out of prejudice. They had been part of a covert operation involving corrupt law enforcement and criminal activity deep within the city's force. They had been targeting specific individuals to manipulate the mayor's office and create chaos within the community. The video of Marcus being pulled over was not a random act, but a deliberate move to provoke the mayor into a confrontation. Just as the mayor turned to speak, the unexpected twist struck. The very officer who had left earlier, now reappearing, suddenly dropped to his knees and confessed everything. "It's all true," he said, his voice trembling. "We were part of something bigger, and you were the next target." The crowd gasped in shock, and it became clear. This wasn't just a matter of racial prejudice. It was part of a carefully orchestrated plot to bring down the mayor and manipulate the city's future. The police chief, now arriving on the scene, confirmed the revelation, and the full extent of the corruption began to unfold. What had started as a routine traffic stop had turned into a massive uncovering of systemic abuse. The mayor's son, once a quiet figure in the background, had unknowingly become the catalyst for exposing the truth. But as the officers were taken away in handcuffs, a final question lingered in the air: who else was involved, and how deep did the conspiracy go? The city's future hung in the balance, and the real fight was just beginning. As the last of the corrupt officers were taken into custody, the city began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. Mayor Bennett, once threatened by a shadowy force, now stood at the center of a movement for real change. Marcus, the mayor's son, had become an unexpected hero, his quiet strength in the face of adversity sparking a wave of activism across the city. The investigation revealed that the conspiracy went far beyond just those officers, and with each new arrest, the truth came to light, rebuilding the city's trust in its leaders. The community, still reeling from the betrayal, found hope in the unity that emerged from the crisis. The mayor vowed to reform the police department and create a system of accountability that would prevent anything like this from ever happening again. As for Marcus, he had stepped into the spotlight, not as the mayor's son, but as someone who had helped change the city forever. The fight was far from over, but now the people were ready to stand together.